Kurdish students who actually participated in the protest. The Kurds have participated, but again, it's been conditional on the attitudes of the Green Movement and its leaders, which has been quite unsatisfactory for the ethnic groups. The last piece is, I just want to finish by a quote from Dr. Qasimlu, that really in the 80s, when he talked about ethnic rights and democracy and autonomy and self-rule, as Carol was mentioning, he was very well outspoken about the future of Iran, and he was very hard-working, or he's working very hard to make sure that he gets the support and the unity among the ethnic groups, and as well as the national opposition groups to seek an alternative for this regime. Unfortunately, he did not get the opportunity to do that, but he tried very hard. And there was one quote that he mentioned that he said, half of Iran's population is made of ethnic groups, half or more than half or less than half, so give it or take. But this is, and he says this is an issue that's been ignored, and this is an issue that's it's been concealed in Iran. And he said that the fact that this issue is being ignored doesn't really diminish its significance, and it always remained there. And he said that a meaningful democracy could not be attained in Iran without accommodating the rights of ethnic groups who make up more than half of Iran's population. So I will conclude with that, and hopefully to see an attitude change from the Green Movement, its leaders, in regards to the ethnic groups, and an attitude change from the national groups or various opposition groups representing various sectors of Iranian society to have change in attitude and perspective in regards to ethnic groups and their position in the future of Iran. And again, I thank you very much for being here, and thanks for listening to me.
I just want to remind people, if anybody's getting peckish, there are sandwiches outside. But come quickly back, because now we're being joined by Idris Ahmedi.
I would like to thank the Middle East Institute, and in particular Kate, for organizing this seminar. I'm going to talk about three interrelated issues: federalism, democracy, and ethnic diversity in Iran. Like many countries in the Middle East, Iran is multi-ethnic, even though it is trying to project an image of itself as being ethnically or nationally homogeneous. And it is generally perceived as being a mono-national or mono-ethnic country in many parts of the world. Like all states in the region, the Iranian state embarked on a project of nation building at the beginning of the 20th century. Nation building in Iran was essentially an attempt to create a monolithic entity called the Iranian nation by suppressing ethnic diversity within the country and by imposing Persian ethnic identity on the other ethnic groups. Yet, 80 years later, 80 or 19 years later, not only has nation building in Iran failed, but the official nationalism and the official notion of nationhood in Iran are being challenged by the non-Persian ethnic groups. However, not all ethnic groups in Iran are politically significant. By politically significant, I mean that they have explicit political demands for recognition as distinct ethnic or national groups, and that they have shown organized resistance to the government. Two ethnic groups, two major politically significant ethnic groups, the Azeris, which is the second largest group, and the Kurds, they managed to set up their own autonomous republics following the Second World War. Let me also mention that since Iran does not provide any figures, the census that was conducted last time was in 1996. It didn't contain any figures whatsoever about the existence of ethnic groups in Iran. So there are only estimates. For example, one estimate by the Central Intelligence Agency is that the Persians in Iran constitute no more than 51%. Next to them are the Azeris, or the Azeri Turkish-speaking people, which is 24%. The Kurds are estimated to be 7% of the population, the Arabs 3%, and the Baluchis 2%. This is the same estimate one can find in the report, the country report by Freedom House. The Library of Congress, however, has a somewhat different estimate. According to them, the Persians constitute 65% of the population, the Azeris 16%, the Kurds 7%, the Arabs 2%, and the Baluchis 2%. So we do not really know we do not have exact data about the ethnic composition of the country, but these ethnic groups are politically significant in the sense that I alluded to. One can say that there are two overarching and contending perspectives on the future of Iran with respect to its ethnic diversity. According to the first, traditionally and still dominant among ruling elites and even some opposition groups, is that this diversity is a liability and even a threat to the territorial integrity of Iran. According to the second perspective, which is that of political actors representing the politically significant minorities or ethnic groups in Iran, this diversity would not only facilitate the transition to meaningful democracy, but will also serve as a form of checks and balances in order to safeguard democracy in the country. There has emerged, partly as a result of the developments in Iraq following the invasion in 2003, but also as a result of the efforts by the ethnic minorities, for example, by creating an umbrella organization called Congress of Nationalities for a Federal Iran, and these efforts have resulted in bringing or raising the issue of federalism as a formula for political coexistence in a future democratic Iran. I will be advancing two arguments very briefly. First, it is a myth that the ethnic diversity in Iran is a threat to the country's territorial integrity. I shall propose an explanation to why this myth is maintained. Second, my second argument is that if a federal polity is to materialize in the future in Iran, its form and structure will ultimately be determined by the internal balance of power between the ethnic groups rather than the force of moral and political arguments. So, let me address the issue of separatism and diversity. Separatism is the major concern of the Iranian regime as well as some opposition groups. And separatism is invoked as a justification for the violent suppression of political demands by the ethnic groups. Calls for federal system in Iran is equated by the regime as well as some opposition groups with separatism. Yet the stated demands of the Kurds, the Azeris, the Baluchis, and the Arabs are not separation from Iran, but peaceful coexistence within a federal Iran. So, why the persistent reference to separatism? In my opinion, it is less motivated by a concern over the territorial disintegration of Iran than it is a concern about changes in the status quo, changes in the existing relations of power. By existing relations of power,